Oh, another superhero comic book adaptation. You know, these are one of my favorite things to talk about. My name is Brandon Keith Avery, and this is just my opinion. All right, now guys, we have Supergirl, the latest entry in the new DC universe. It is coming in at 1 hour and 47 minutes, rated PG-13, and is being described as DC space science fiction, superhero, action, adventure, drama, and science fiction. Now, this is being directed by Mr. Craig Gillespie. This is what the gentleman looks like right here. And I am a fair fan of this man's work. If we scroll down and look at his filmography, he did do Cruella, which I did not see her nothing but great things, but he also did I, Tonya, that came out in 2017. I did see that film and absolutely loved it. And here are a few other of his titles. If you are a fan of Mr. Craig Gillespie and seen any of his work, I've also seen Mike. That was pretty good too. Please let me know down in the comment section below. Now, when it comes to my expectations for Supergirl, to be honest with you, even though I love superhero comic book adaptations, this film was extremely low as far as my expectations are concerned. When I first saw the trailer, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I was just indifferent. And I don't know too much about Supergirl, to be honest with you, other than she's the cousin of Superman, Kal-El, and she's from Krypton, and, you know, they are cousins. Also, Supergirl was introduced to me back in 2010, I believe, the year that this came out. This is a DC animated film, Superman, Batman, Apocalypse. Remember it like it was yesterday. At the end of this movie, she wrecked shop on Darkseid, and it was just amazing. I was like, damn, that character is dope as hell. I would love to see this in a live action movie. So if anything, I was looking for this Supergirl to adapt this, but you know, it doesn't, and that's not a bad thing. Of course, we're going to be talking about that in the review. But other than that, I just wanted a good movie. Like I said, I really didn't know much about Supergirl. I did like Superman for the most part, and kind of thought that it would be in the same vein of that movie, Superman, that came out last year, directed by James Gunn. And so I was just going into this hoping for the best, but not expecting much. So before I get into all the nitty gritty, before I talk about all my likes and dislikes, let me tell you exactly what this Supergirl film is all about. Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl, joins forces with an unlikely companion on an interstellar journey of vengeance and justice when an unexpected adversary strikes too close to home. All right, the first thing that I really did like about this film is this is the second movie in the new DC universe that is being created by James Gunn. And Superman was first, came out in 2025, and you don't have to see Superman to understand or comprehend this movie at all. It may help, and I don't even want to say it may help, but it may not, but it is not requirement. You don't need to do any homework. When I posted my out of theater reaction, someone asked me, hey, B, they put in the comment section, do I need to go back and rewatch Superman that came out last year? I said it's not necessary at all. I mean, you can if you want to. So whether you've seen Superman 2025, whether you haven't, whether you want to watch this one first and that one second, it doesn't matter. You can watch any of these movies in any order or not at all, and you will just be fine with understanding everything that's going on. Next thing that I really did like about this movie is when it comes to the Justice League, the main superhero team in DC, where it comes to Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, all of those characters have different powers, but Superman and Supergirl have the exact same powers, and they're from the exact same place. However, in this film, they are completely different characters, and I love that. We have been knowing Superman for decades upon decades upon decades, and he is powered up by a yellow sun. But when it comes to Kara, in this film, that's not the case. Yes, she does come in contact with a yellow sun eventually to where she gets her powers, but for majority of this film, she is around a red sun. So she's either weaker or just doesn't have any powers at all. So when you compare that to Superman, a character that we've known and loved for the most part for decades, like I said, this is just a complete 180 of those same abilities, but from a completely different perspective. Also, what I like about this film is majority of it does take place off planet, off Earth. Now, that may not be something that you want to see as a fan if you're in love with Superman, but I will give the film credit because it's giving us something different than we've never seen before in the umbrella of Superman. So whether you like it or not, I can always appreciate when a creator gives me something fresh and new that I've never witnessed before. And so I just respect that. Now, another thing that I liked about this film is when it comes to these heroes, I love Batman. And I really, really do like Superman. Batman is my favorite of the two. However, with those two characters, it can get a bit annoying that they never want to kill anyone. I understand that they have a code, but for example, with the Batman, he's a menace. He's a psychopath. He's a cold-blooded murderer. And anytime he gets a chance, he's going to murder people in the dozens, in the hundreds, in the thousands if he has a chance. Batman won't ever kill him. Especially Superman either. I mean, they will go out of their way not to kill this villain, the Joker, or any other villain. Like, oh, I'm just going to lock you behind bars or closed doors or in some type of facility. And it's like, dude, if they escape, they can kill more people. So stop that right now. Now, I'm not saying that Supergirl is just a killer and she will just go out and murder anyone that she does not agree with. She will try to preserve life. But when it comes down to it, a light bulb will go off in her head and be like, you are too dangerous to be left alive. I am going to kill you. And she does that in this movie. I mean, she tries to avoid it, but she's like, you know, I cannot let this go. I don't want to take any chances. You're going to die. Bam. I'm like, oh, okay. I love that. Again, it's a complete 180 from Superman. I really do like that. I really do appreciate it. I do respect it. Also loved about her character is that she is a drifter. She does have a code, but at the same time minds her own business. And when I say code is, she is not going out of her way to be a hero or save cats out of a tree or anything like that. She does mind her business for the most part. But at the same time, if trouble does show up at her door, she is compelled to kind of step in and be like, hey, what can I do? How can I assist? How can I save the day? I'm not saying that she'll get down and dirty and grimy, but I mean, at the very least, she will say something like, okay, hey, man, I'm over here just trying to enjoy this drink. You can't just be shooting up the club like this, okay? Like, just keep it moving so everybody can get along. I don't want to bother you as long as you're not bothering everybody else. What you're doing right now is ridiculous, okay? Like, I'm not just going to stand by and let you wreak havoc just because, especially if I can do something. So I like that about her character as well. And also with her being around a red sun for a majority of this film, you get to see her weaknesses. You get to see her downfall. You get to see someone with Superman-like powers that are not able to use them at their will. And that kind of does humanize the character a little bit and makes you relate to them just a little bit more than you can with Clark Kent or Kal-El. And I thought the casting for Supergirl for Kara Zor-El was pretty good with Milly Alcock. I'm not too familiar with her. I've heard of her before, but she looks good in the film. She looks good in the costume. She can act and perform well. I didn't have any problems with her lines of dialogue. She was convincing throughout the whole film. She was very believable, and I was rooting for her for the most part. When it comes to the rest of the characters, Krypto is okay. I liked him a little bit more in this movie than I did Superman. He was a little bit annoying in that movie, like just beating the crap out of Superman, flying around. I'm like, man, calm your ass down. Go have some kibbles and bits. Krypto is a little bit annoying in this film, but not as much. I mean, he's a space dog, so I don't know how much I can expect. Now, when it comes to the other characters that take majority of the screen time, we do have somebody by the name of Ruthie, played by Eve Ridley. I do like her. She's not strong at all. She's a little weak, but at the same time, she has a lot of pride. She has ego to a degree, and I do like that. She is standing on business. She's just like, you know, hey, this is an injustice. I don't like it. I'm going to try my best to take you down, but I need help. She kind of reminds me of characters out of Game of Thrones, a show that I've watched casually, but I'm not too much in the trenches. But when she first popped up on screen and she was explaining her problem, her dilemma, I was like, okay, right on. I'm on board with you. I believe in your mission. I do want you to succeed. As far as Jason Momoa as Lobo, I know a lot of people have been anticipating his debut in this movie, his debut in the DC. Now, to be honest with you, I don't like the character of Lobo. He's never really done it. It's not that I'm indifferent. I just never really liked him. And Lobo was introduced to me in the DC animated series Young Justice. I think the first time I saw him, he was fighting against Dick Grayson. And I just don't really care for the character. He just never done anything for me. Always been a bit annoying. I know he's super duper duper strong. He's immortal. You can't kill him. And I've just heard this from regular geeks and nerds online. Not really read any comic books on him, but I know he's a force to be reckoned with. And I know that Jason Momoa has been salivating at the mouth for years to play this role, to fulfill this role. And many fans around the world feel the exact same way. I did like his role in Aquaman. I did. I love those movies. I think they're fantastic. A lot of you may crap on them, but to be honest with you, I enjoyed him more as Aquaman than I did as Lobo. That may be biased, but to say that I really don't care about Lobo, I'm not saying that Jason Momoa or Lobo did a bad job in this movie. He didn't do a bad job, did a decent job at the very least. But at the same time, I'm not excited about the character. However, I am still interested in seeing more of his character in the future films in the DCU. But in this movie, he did a fine job. He didn't do a great job. He didn't do a bad job. You know, he was just there and served his purpose. I honestly feel like his involvement was not necessary, but I could be wrong there. Again, I didn't hate him. He was just there. He was cool. Okay. And I will say that I was indifferent about his character. But again, I do like Jason Momoa. I am a fan, so no shade there. One criticism that I will say about his character is, if he is so strong, if he is such a powerful force and just this presence that will knock anybody down if they look at him the wrong way, there was one point in this film time I was like, if all that is possible, how did you end up in this predicament? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe I just don't know the lore, the backstory, the comic book, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention, and I think I was, but there was just that one small aspect in this film. So I was like, this doesn't really make any sense. But that's all I have to say about Lobo. Now, as far as the villain is concerned, by the name of Krim, the design of the villain was cool. He was evil, he was conniving, but at the same time, he was very bland, a bit annoying as well. He kind of reminded me of Ronan the Accused or Ronan the Accursed in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie by James Gunn. I mean, he was just bad. He was just evil just because. Now, I may not have been paying attention, and I think that I was, but at this very moment as I'm filming this review, I can't really remember what he wanted other than power. But that's most villains, but it's just, I kind of wanted more for him, and he was just, you know, real strong and powerful and annoying. He is resourceful too, but I did want a bit more from the villain. That he was probably the weakest part of this film. Other portions that I did like about this film was Superman, played by David Cornsweet. He is in the movie. He is not in the movie a lot. He pops in and out in a few moments, and I did like his involvement. It wasn't necessary for him to be in the film either, like Lobo, but well, I say it probably was a little bit necessary. No, I take that back. His involvement was necessary, but the film was not saturated with him. The movie does not rely on Superman to tell the story or to sell tickets. He probably pops up around 3 or 4 times. And just to be completely honest, I enjoyed every moment that he was in the film. And that's probably because I was just more familiar with the character. I don't want to necessarily say what he was doing because that's going to spoil things for you. And this is a non-spoiler review, but I did like everything about Superman. And also, my favorite parts of the film were with Superman, even though he was brief in the movie. And just a second ago, I was just about to say that he wasn't necessary. I do like his interactions with Supergirl, Kara Zor-El, and Kal-El, Clark Kent. I love that. I love their interaction on Earth, even though that was brief. And everything else that I am familiar with from past knowledge of Superman was the death of Krypton. Anytime there's a DC movie that has to do with Superman, whether that's James Gunn's universe or Zack Snyder's or whatever, I always like the death of Krypton. That's just always fascinating to me. And this is very different. I loved it in Zack Snyder's universe and I loved it here. And it's not just the same thing. It's not just a carbon copy. They gave us something new and fresh with the death of Krypton that I've never seen before, with this city of Argo and the technology and how characters do die and or survive, or at least try to. I mean, if you just think about it, what would you do? What would happen? What would need to take place if there are characters that are trying to stay on a planet and survive if it's facing ultimate total destruction? I like that they put that into this film, and it made sense to me, even though Krypton is fake and the technology is not real. I was like, you know what? That's a good ass idea right there. That's dope. And then when you have flashes of Supergirl, Kara Zor-El in there in the mix trying to do her thing, I was like, you know what? I like this. They did a great job. They actually knocked this portion of the film out of the park. So the death of Krypton was actually one of my favorite parts of this movie. It didn't need to be longer. It was great with the amount of screen time that it had. The film also had a few jokes here and there. It wasn't goofy. It wasn't trying to make you laugh. There were just a couple of funny moments with characters interacting with each other if there was a certain language barrier, and I did appreciate that. This movie is more serious than Superman that came out last year. I know a lot of people complained about that movie being a bit too goofy and too jokey. I am one of those people that had those complaints and or criticisms, but this film is not as jokey. It is a bit more serious. As far as the action is concerned, it was decent, and I'll talk about that more in a second. And also the story was very easy to follow to a degree on the surface. There was a couple of subplots here and there to where I was like, you know, okay, what's going on? But I also did appreciate the labeling of certain planets and star systems and where characters were in the galaxy. Also, as far as like what type of sun shined upon this planet, whether it was a red sun, a yellow sun, a green sun, etc. You know, I did find that quite interesting as well. All right, those are the things that I really did enjoy about the film. Now let me transition to some things that really didn't work out the best for me. One being, when it comes to Supergirl, she is drunk and or high for a lot of this movie. And I don't understand why. I wish we could have got more of a reason. When she was introduced at the end of Superman last year, she came in drunk. When she was introduced at the very beginning of this movie, she was drunk and was like a textbook example of a couch potato. Now, James Gunn did explain, he said, according to James Gunn, in this movie, we see differences between Superman, who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents from the time he was an infant, versus Supergirl, who was raised on a rock chip of Krypton and watched everyone around her die and be killed in terrible ways for the first 14 years of her life. I love that perspective, and that is true. We did get to see that in this film. But for me, in the way that it was presented, that is still not enough information as to why she is still sloshed for all the time. Like, she just doesn't care. And at one point in this movie, she is on Earth, but off screen decides to leave to go to a red planet. Like, I understand that you went through hell the first 14 years of your life. And I mean, that may be the answer right there in itself. Like, Brandon, you're answering your own question, but I just kind of wanted to see more of it. You know, show me, don't tell me. And they really didn't even tell me. I had to interpret that by reading this off of IMDb. If the first 14 years of your life was just absolutely horrible, I mean, I kind of want to see that, because that'll explain why you are right now, to where you just, I mean, you're just a slob. You're a hoarder. I'm not saying there's roaches and critters going around, but like, you truly just don't care at all. And I kind of wanted them to actually show me why you're that way, instead of me just assuming or reading something online or just making the interpretation myself. It may not bother you, but it's just something that I did want more in this film. I also talked about the villain. He is a bit weak, the weakest portion of this movie, to be honest with you. I did not like the cinematography and or the lighting. A lot of this movie, especially when it comes to the action, is in dark, gloomy corridors and close quarters. And with some of it, for me at least, it's kind of hard to see what's going on with all the punches and kicks and throws and whatnot. And then when you're fighting against all these aliens, the power scaling is somewhat all over the place. Like, I don't know who's the strongest at some points to this movie and who's the weakest at other points. I mean, these are just a bunch of foreign aliens that I've never seen before. So there's not that much weight to it. And again, a lot of it is dark and gloomy. Now the action, when Supergirl is doing her thing in the daytime, I'm like, oh, great. I can actually see what's going on. I can actually interpret what's happening on screen. And I like this. But in the other parts, like I said, it's dark, it's gloomy, it's dusty, it's in close quarters. And that's just kind of a bummer. And also the editing wasn't the best when they're filming these action scenes as well. And also cutting from scene to scene. Sometimes a scene would end it would go somewhere else. But then when we visit these characters again, I'm like, wait a minute, the scene ended this way. So how did the characters ended up here? Or how did the characters end up here? How were they locked up, etc.? So that was just kind of a bummer as well. And the story could have been a bit stronger. What gets Kara, Supergirl, out of bed to go, I guess, save the day, even though she's not claiming to be a hero. I'm like, okay, I understand that's your position, but for this to be your debut in the DCU, the new one by James Gunn, could have had a bit more fluff. This seems like it could have been a TV episode or some short film as far as the story is concerned of what motivated her, you know, like what is your calling other than this one entity that you care about? You know, I mean, I just kind of wanted a little bit more with the story and the villain. This movie is not bad, but at the same time, it's not fantastic. I can't just go out here and be like, oh my gosh, they knocked this out of the park. I love me some Supergirl. Remember, you know, this was my introduction right here, and she was badass in this. I'm not saying that Kara was not bad in this. She was just good. She was good. I had a decent time with this movie. I mean, it's not a failure in any sense of the word. Not a bad movie. Other than the complaints I just had, there's nothing else outside of that. I enjoyed it, and you know, I am looking forward to more. But I'm not just like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for it to come out. I want to see it now. So I will go ahead and give my rating for this at the very end of this video. But guys, for now, that is just my opinion. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy this video, please go ahead and give me the thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. I'm so close to 60,000 subscribers. I want to hit that benchmark as soon as possible, and I can only do that with your help. So hit that subscribe button and also the share button as well. I would really appreciate it. And also hit the hype button and let me know, who is your favorite DC character? Is it Superman or is it Supergirl or Lobo? Let me know in the comment section. But guys, if I had to rate Supergirl out of a 1 out of 10, I would give it a 7 out of 10. Yes, a 7 out of 10. But guys, again, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget that I'm B. Avery. Peace, and I'll see you next time.